I used to live among the dead. That's where they put me, out beyond the village, where the tombs cut into the hillside and the wind never seemed to stop blowing through the rocks. No one wanted me near their homes. No one wanted me near their children. To them, I wasn't a man anymore. I was something else, but it wasn't always like that. I remember a time before the darkness came. I had a home once. I worked the land with my hands, and at night I sat by the fire with the others from the village. I had a name people spoke without fear, but slowly, something began to change. At first, it was just voices, whispers when no one else was around, words that weren't mine, thoughts that pushed their way into my mind like intruders breaking into a house. I tried to ignore them, then I tried to fight them, but the voices grew louder. Soon I couldn't sleep. I would wake in the night screaming, though I didn't know why. My family began to look at me with worry, and then with fear. The voices didn't stop, they grew. One became many, and the many became a storm inside my head. I would wander into the hills for hours without knowing how I got there. Sometimes I woke up covered in dirt and blood, where I had cut myself on the rocks. I wasn't in control anymore. Something else was. Eventually, the village had enough. They tried to restrain me. The first time, they brought ropes, thick ones, the kind used to tie down animals. They wrapped them around my wrists and ankles and fastened them to a post outside the village. But the voices inside me raged, and something inside me snapped. I remember the sound of the ropes tearing as if they were nothing. The men stepped back in shock. The second time they came with chains. Heavy iron shackles locked around my wrists and ankles. They fastened them tightly and anchored them to stone. But again, the rage rose up, and somehow, I tore them apart. After that, they gave up. They drove me away from the village and left me among the tombs. That's where I lived, among the dead. Day and night the voices tormented me. I wandered through the burial caves, howling into the darkness. Sometimes I ran across the hills like a wild animal, screaming until my throat burned. The villagers avoided that place. If they saw me in the distance, they turned and ran. Children were warned never to come near the tombs, and honestly, I don't blame them, because I was terrifying. Not just to them, to myself. There were moments, brief, flickering moments, when I felt like I was watching my own life from far away, like I was trapped inside my own body while something else pulled the strings, and the voices never stopped until the day the boat arrived. I remember it clearly. The sun had barely risen, and the lake was quiet. I was standing on the hillside above the shore when I saw it, just a small fishing boat approaching the land. A few men were inside. One of them stood near the front. At first, I didn't know who he was, but the voices inside me did. Suddenly, the storm inside my mind exploded with panic. No, not him. Anyone but him. The rage surged up again, and my body began running down the hill before I could stop it. Stones cut into my feet as I ran, but I didn't feel them. The men in the boat saw me coming. I must have looked like a monster. Wild hair, torn clothes, covered in scars and dirt. But the man at the front didn't step back. He didn't run. He simply stood there, watching me. And when I reached him, something strange happened. Instead of attacking him, I fell. My knees hit the ground, and a cry burst from my mouth, but the words weren't mine. "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God?" The voice that spoke through me was filled with terror. Not my terror, theirs. Jesus looked at me calmly, as if the chaos inside me didn't surprise him at all. "What is your name?" he asked. For a moment there was silence. Then the voices answered, "Legion, for we are many." And they were. I could feel them twisting inside my mind like 1,000 shadows. Then they began to beg him. The demons that had ruled me, the demons that had terrified an entire village, were begging him not to send them away, not to destroy them, just not to send them into the abyss. Nearby, a large herd of pigs was feeding on the hillside, and suddenly the voices pleaded with him, "Send us into the pigs." Jesus looked toward the herd, then back at me, and he gave a single command: "Go." In that instant, the storm inside me broke. The voices screamed as they were torn away from me, and for the first time in years, there was silence in my mind, real silence. But the calm lasted only a moment, because suddenly the pigs began to shriek. The entire herd, hundreds of them, bolted in terror. They rushed down the steep hillside like a flood of panic, straight toward the lake. And before anyone could stop them, they plunged into the water. The lake swallowed them. And then everything became quiet again. I was lying on the ground, breathing heavily, but the darkness was gone. The rage was gone. The voices were gone. For the first time in years, my mind was my own. When I looked up, Jesus was still standing there. He didn't look shocked. He didn't look afraid. He simply looked at me, like a man looking at another man. The villagers came running when they heard what had happened. They expected to find chaos. Instead, they found me sitting there, calm, clothed, sane. And suddenly they were more afraid of Jesus than they had ever been of me. But I wasn't afraid. I only felt one thing: freedom. As Jesus and his disciples prepared to leave, I ran to him. "Please," I said, "let me go with you." After everything he had done, how could I go back to my old life? But Jesus shook his head. "Go home to your people," he said. "Tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you." So I did. I went back to the towns of the Decapolis and told anyone who would listen about the man who stepped off a boat and freed me from a prison no chains could hold. Once I lived among the dead, now I live among the living, and all because Jesus came to my shore